my husband and I did this really, like, it sounds funny, this sort of exercise, but it works so well, where I would tell him, you know what, I really just don't feel like you're hearing what I'm saying, but I want you to hear my emotion. And so I told him what to say, and he was like verbatim. He would do it every time. I couldn't believe he could remember this. Every time I would start to get upset, he would be like, I hear what your inner child is experiencing. He literally would do this. And it didn't feel condescending. It felt amazing. He's, I hear what your inner child is saying. And even though I hear that, what I'm saying is, and it was like, holy shit, I'm being seen, hearing, I'm being heard. Even though this is kind of funny, it takes you right out. It's like a pattern interrupt. It takes you right out of the fight and right into like this kind of funny joke. And he would do it every time because he's like just really kind of solid in that way. And I was like, oh my God, this is how you learn how to respond. You like see what you're really doing. It's your inner child reacting. And then you're like, oh my gosh, he sees me. That's all I want is my emotion. Emotion only wants to be validated. Okay, he sees how I feel. Actually, I don't really need to feel that anymore. It's nuts. I want you guys to try it. It's like this immediate, like, oh, I really am being felt. But he has to be real about it. He can't be like, oh, I see how you're feeling. He has to be like, I actually understand.
Right.
And then move on. You feel emotionally like back to set point. I'm telling you, it works.
I love that. That's awesome. And huge kudos to him to be doing that. That's great.
I can't believe it. He's like, every time he would do it every time. I think it was like a week. I was like, whoa.
Oh yeah. There's moments where like I'll be in the middle of, yes, the inner child coming out and in reacting in certain ways around Ike. And then I'm like, wait a second, I'm doing it again, aren't I? And he's just like, yeah. And then we like laugh and it's like,
yeah.
Oh, right.
I mean, it's literally like, you have to realize a lot of people that have these patterns say to me, there's this overwhelming emotion that comes up for a little situation, right? We all know that. And I always say, another thing you have to do is remind yourself or have your partner remind you that that experience you have inside is not a reflection of your current reality. It's an old wound that's like scared that this is the reality. But if you wake up and say, my childlike perception makes sense because I was a child. But today, that same situation doesn't have to make me react that way because I know I'm safe. I know I can take care of my life. I know everything's actually fine. It doesn't feel as frightening or scary, but we have to consciously remind ourselves that our reality is not where our emotional self still is. And really start to connect the head and heart and be like, oh,
right.
I'm separate in that way. I'm still reacting like a 5-year-old,
right?
Even though I'm 40.
Yes. Yes.
That we can start to do.
I love that. That's good. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Yes, it is amazing. Sometimes I'll notice fear and stuff within me, and I'm like, oh wait, what? I'm like doing the dishes or something. I'm like, what exactly? It's like it's as if my father and mother are in the kitchen fighting again and yelling, and I'm afraid for my life and blah blah blah. Right? It's like no, that's actually not happening right now. Like. Yeah.
It's not happening, but also super, super important to talk to that part of you to bring her with you into the new understanding. Because if we keep saying to ourselves, this is another issue a lot of us do, is we tell ourselves, I know better. I know I'm not my dad and mom, but she doesn't. So she's still going to feel unseen and unintegrated. And so it will keep coming up. And the more we can integrate and say, oh my gosh, I see why you feel that way, but come with me. This is the reparenting. I'm going to show you a new way. It's time for us to upgrade and leave behind the old story. And a lot of people don't like to leave behind the old story because it makes them feel connected to parents. It makes them feel connected to their self, their history. But you can bring it with you and sort of show it a new consciousness. And many people don't know how to do that. And so we walk around sort of disconnected from that inner experience.